Hi, it's Dr. Weideman again, and I'm going to show you how to work some problems from Chapter 22, the chi-square test of independence, and I'll demonstrate one problem where we have the raw data and another problem where we only have summary data. So the first problem I selected to work on is on page 52, it's problem 52 on page 643 in the ebook, and we can take a look at it here. They're talking about education by age. Use the survey results in the table to investigate differences in education level attained among different age groups in the U.S. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to do a hypothesis test. We need our null and alternative. So our null is going to be that age and education level are independent, and our alternative will be that they're not independent or that they're associated. Those two are equivalent alternative hypotheses. So let's go ahead and open up StatCrunch. And here we have our data set. Okay, now we notice that they have individuals, so each line here is one of the people that was in the data set. So the first thing we want to do, we need to, first of all, let me go back and look at my little notes here, because the first thing we need to also do is check the assumptions and conditions. Random, independent, and it's a survey result, so we're going to assume that it was random and that the people are independent of one another. And it looks like the total in the cell, we'll find out in a minute how many total people are in the table, but it's certainly less than 10%. We need to check the expected cell counts, and we're going to use StatCrunch to do that. So let's go ahead and go to Stat, Tables, Contingency, with Data, because we have the data. And so we want to pick the row here, and the row is going to be the education level, and the column is going to be the age. And under this display, I'm going to select expected counts because I want to check those to make sure they're all greater than 5. Okay, so here's my table. And if I look across here, I see there's 1,000 people in the table, so that's certainly less than 10%. And it looks like all the cells are greater than 5, so we've met our assumptions and conditions. We also might want to look at, if you remember in the handout for the chapter, sometimes we like to look at things percent of row or percent of column. Let's do a percent of column, I think. I think that might be interesting to take a look at. So here we're going to look at what percentage of people 25 to 34 have 1 to 3 years of college. So if we look across here, it looks like as people are getting older, this level of education percentage-wise seems to be dropping. Non-high school graduate is the one that's going up. The younger people have lower percentage of people without high school graduate. The older people have a higher percentage. And then we can go ahead and look at the bottom of the output here for the chi-square test. And notice it has 12 degrees of freedom. And why is that? Well, that's because this table is 4 columns by 3. So we're going to go, 5 by 4. So the degrees of freedom are going to be 4 by 3, or 12 degrees of freedom. And we've got a very small p-value. So our conclusion is going to be that there does seem to be some type of association, or that these two variables are not independent. And you can kind of picture that right here. The non-high school grad percentage is increasing dramatically as people get older. And then the college level educations are dropping off as people get older. So there definitely does seem to be an effect. And then we can also go and look at the contribution to the chi-square. That's always interesting to look at and see which of the cells is contributing the most to the chi-square. And not surprisingly, it's this cell right here. People 65 and older have a large number of people who are not high school graduates, and that cell, and also this cell here, are contributing the most if we look at that contribution to, and also this cell, to the overall chi-square. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close this one down, and I picked another problem to work through where we only have summary data. And this is actually in the chapter review for this section in the ebook. So if we go ahead up to page 693, we'll find this problem. And this problem only has summary data. And they're looking at, as soon as I get my cursor back to move you down the page, in this problem they're looking at this problem here, number 30. The following table is based on a Gallup poll in which Americans were classified by their income, and then they were asked for their views on redistributing the U.S. wealth by heavily taxing the rich, and the data are shown in this table. Is there any evidence that income level is associated with feelings toward the wealth redistribution in the U.S.? Okay, so let's go back over to my notes here and So here's our hypotheses. Income and redistribution views are independent. Alternative, they're not independent, or they're associated. Assumptions and conditions, random, independent, less than 10%, and we need those expected cell counts again. So we're going to go ahead and go into StatCrunch. Takes a minute for the data set to load. Oh, it's not loading. Okay, let me try one more time. Hopefully this one will come up. If it doesn't, I have another one I can pull up if that one's not going to work. Oh, it doesn't want to seem to load that one. Okay, let me just take a look because I think I had another one on the next page. Okay, let's just go up to page 695. So we'll try this one instead because I just want to show you what it looks like when you've got summary data. And okay, this is looking at party affiliation and their ages for white voters. So a similar kind of a problem to what we had before, but let's see if we can get this one to load so I can show you how you work with the summary data. Okay, I think this one did load. Okay, yeah, here we've got summary data. So what you do in this case is go to Stat, Tables, Contingency with a summary, and you're going to select the columns that you want to look at. And so your columns here are going to be the leaning, you can't see it right now, but it's the leaning Republican, the leaning Democrat, and the other, and then the column row labels are going to be age. And we wanted the expected cell count. So the only difference is how you set it up in the first couple commands when you go into StatCrunch. So if we look across here, we see that all the expected cell counts are greater than 5, so we're good to go. And then if we went down here and looked at our chi-square, 6 degrees of freedom, and remember we have 4 rows, 3 columns, so 3 times 2, 6 degrees of freedom. Our p-value is a little bit more than 0.01, so if we were using an alpha of 0.05, we would still reject. And we might want to look at which cells are contributing, so we can go and change that display to contribute to the chi-square. And if we look across here, it looks like these 2 cells here, and we also might want to look at the column percents. Actually, let's look at the row percents instead. Let's do the row percents. See if we can see what's going on in this table. So I don't really see a big pattern there. Leaning Republican, leaning Democrat. I don't see any big shifts anywhere. Let's try the column percents. Maybe something will jump out at us there. Yeah, I'm not really seeing anything dramatically jumping out, but we did notice, again, let's go back and see which cell was contributing the most to the chi-square, because that also helps us to see where we might see some. So the 30 to 49s seem to have the largest contribution. So anyway, so now you know how to do either summary data or if you have the actual data in the chi-square test.